is simply a low-hanging fruit that too many of you are comfortable taking. It very much feels like laughing at rather than laughing with.
Like basically everybody else, I went to go and see Wicked last week, and I can't remember the last time I was so affected by a movie. I know it's kind of annoying when people recommend stuff that you're not invested in at all, particularly when it's being kind of rammed down your throat everywhere you look. Is there a brand collaboration that the Wicked movie has not done? Apparently there's even Great Value Wicked Mystery Color Macaroni and Cheese Cup. Which one will you get? Pink or green? Hopefully neither. I think you can get that at Walmart if you're interested. Luckily we don't have that here. I think when we say mac and cheese is a popular autistic safe food, we're not talking about that. But mac and cheese aside, I do really recommend that you go and see the film if you can, especially if you're autistic or basically anybody who's ever felt marginalized for any reason. And I'm not really a musical person, so I was very skeptical. And now I'm invested. I went out and bought the book straight away. I know the book is very different. I feel like I'm kind of being clickbaited with this cover and everyone deserves the chance to fly written on the cover. It shouldn't really be a surprise that I loved it though. I'm a big fan of anything with morally grey characters and anything that tries to subvert notions of who is good and who is evil. Anyway, unfortunately, I think it was the day after I'd gone to see the film, I learned that one of the actors has been experiencing abuse on TikTok. Of course, it's always either TikTok or Reddit, usually TikTok. Marissa Bodie plays the character of Nessa Rose, and don't worry, I'm going to try my best to keep spoilers to a minimum in the video. I'll warn you if I'm going to say anything particularly spoilery. And also, you don't need to know about or care about the movie to enjoy the video. Basically, the character of Nessa Rose is the sister of the main character, Alphaba, the green one. And the character, Nessa Rose, is a wheelchair user. And this casting of Marissa Bodie as Nessa Rose was a big deal because on stage, the character has never been played by a wheelchair user, and it's been 21 years. This lack of representation has been really hurtful. Marissa Bodie is a wheelchair user herself. In an interview on the Wheelchair Activist podcast, she discussed going to see Wicked for the first time as an 11-year-old girl and being so excited to see a person in a wheelchair in the show.
I knew basically nothing about the overall plot of Wicked. Seeing the character on stage in a wheelchair, I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited.
And her first thought was, I wonder if she's actually a wheelchair user in real life. I wonder if she's like me.
And during intermission, I remember speaking to my mom and being like, I wonder if she's actually in a wheelchair. That's so cool that there's a character in a wheelchair on stage, because I maybe had seen a character in a TV show one time that was in a wheelchair, and it was only for a special episode, and then you never see that character again.
And she was kind of hopeful, and then later she looked it up and she learned that no, the actor was not actually a wheelchair user in real life.
I literally Googled after the show, is so-and-so actress actually in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
Answer was no.
I think that shows one of the reasons why representation is so powerful and important. My heart broke for little Marissa when I heard this story. I've experienced a similar thing with autistic characters, not as a child. I think it would have even more of an impact on a child. But when I watched the first episode of Extraordinary Attorney Woo, I was like, ooh, is she? I wonder, is the actor autistic, And it is disappointing, no matter how much I did still enjoy that show, to realize that, oh, actually, no, she isn't. I really wanted her to be. It's exciting to see disabled people in big roles. It's exciting to see disabled people being chosen and being employed, being given glamorous opportunities. It personally gives me hope to see autistic actress Chloe Hayden portraying an autistic character in Heartbreak High. And the portrayal feels all the more authentic for it. Her meltdown scene is almost too real. When non-disabled actors portray disability, there's always a risk of it verging into mockery territory. I mean, Maddie Ziegler, who played music in Sia's movie, was crying on set because she was worried that people would think that she was making fun of them, and people didn't react well to her performance. But you feel in safe hands when you know an actor has had that lived experience. So it was wonderful that Marissa Bodie was cast in Wicked. She also did all of her own stunts, and they hired a disabled choreographer who was also a wheelchair user to choreograph the dance scenes. They have a Nessa Rose Barbie with a beautiful wheelchair, and they also have a Lego Nessa Rose. And not only was Marissa Bodie cast, but they also needed somebody to play baby Nessa Rose, and they cast emerging young actress, as it says says on her IMDb, Cecily Colette Taylor, which is just the cutest name ever. Cecily brought her unique perspective as a wheelchair user to the role. Because yes, Cecily is also disabled. What a wonderful role model for disabled children. And it must be so lovely for her to look up to Marissa Bodie as well, this grown-up disabled actor with this big role. It's really cool. The two of them together at the premiere in their sparkly dresses. It's so sweet. Apparently they're close in real life too. Kills me. It kills me. It's too cute. But then of course the internet and TikTok specifically exists, so the wholesomeness must come to an end. Well, not really. The wholesomeness has not ended, but in this video for a moment, the wholesomeness is gonna end. And we'll talk about some not so wholesome things for a moment. But the wholesomeness is still happening. They can't take that away from us. A week after Wicked came out, Marissa Bodie started to feel uncomfortable about some comments she was receiving on TikTok, and she felt called to make a video about it. I think the issue is that a lot of people don't actually like the character of Nessa Rose.
Fuck Nessa Rose. Fuck her nasty ass. Love the actress, she ate down. But fuck Nessa Rose.
As I say, there are a lot of morally grey, imperfect characters here. From what I've heard, it sounds like things are only going to get morally greyer in part 2, the movie that's coming out next year as well. And I think that makes people feel like it's okay to make insensitive jokes about Nessa Rose and to make insensitive jokes about Nessa Rose's disability, because her character is arguably a villain and doesn't always behave very well to our main character, who people are maybe more attached to as she defies gravity. She starts the video with the most beautiful musical way anyone has ever said hey. Ever.
Hey. Basically been a week since Wicked came out. Exciting. I've loved seeing people's reactions, but there's something that's made me a bit uncomfortable, and as somebody who's disabled with a platform, I just wanted to talk about it really quick. It is absolutely okay to not like a fictional character. I am going to be admitting my bias in the way that I have a lot of different feelings on Nessa than a lot of you do, and that's totally fine. I think Nessa's complex, but that's the beauty of art in Wicked. These characters and the movie wouldn't be what it was if there weren't different opinions on the characters and who's truly wicked or not, and not liking Nessa herself is okay because she is fictional.
Marissa mentions how she has a good sense of humor. She can take a joke, which definitely checks out if you've seen her social media. And it's fine to make jokes about the character and about the plot of the movie, including jokes about houses that may or may not be falling. If you know, you know. I didn't know. I didn't realize for too long.
I am a deeply unserious person. I love a little jokey joke. The house jokes, silly, goofy, harmless, because the basis of the joke is fictional. Jokes about Nessa's actions or personality, silly, goofy, because she herself is fictional. That being said, aggressive comments and jokes about Nessa's disability itself is deeply uncomfortable, because disability is not fictional. At the end of the day, me, Marissa, is the person that is still disabled and in a wheelchair. And so it is simply a low-hanging fruit that too many of you are comfortable taking around the words of stand up for yourself, I guess you can't stand him, etc. These comments aren't original. And when these jokes are being made by non-disabled strangers with a punchline of not being able to walk, it very much feels like laughing at rather than laughing with.
And although Marissa has deleted the comments from her TikTok, it took me all of 5 minutes to find comments like these on Reddit and on Instagram. Can do a lot except stand up for her sister.
Aggressive comments of wanting to cause harm and push Nessa out of her wheelchair, or that she deserves her disability, are two very gross and harmful comments that real disabled people, including myself, have heard before. And being a vegetable, which is a derogatory term, by the way, for disabled people, and a comment that I saw about Nessa.
As she says, jokes about disability are not okay because disability is not fictional. Imagine young disabled people scrolling TikTok, following Marissa, looking up to Marissa, reading these comments. Imagine baby Nessa Rose in a few years reading these comments. It's just horrible. I guess TikTok does have a younger demographic. I'm sure and I hope most of these comments do just come from ignorance, but it's still disappointing. Marissa says that she's shaking when filming this video. She's afraid to call out ableism.
These disabled creators' comments are flooded with ableist comments. When speaking on ableism, they're told to just take a joke and that they're asking for too much and to stop complaining, to the point where some of my disabled peers, these disabled creators, have needed to take a break online for their own mental well-being.
Which, yes, almost exactly a year ago, I spoke about how Chloe Hayden, the autistic actor who was in Heartbreak High, who I spoke about earlier, was bullied off social media, basically. As far as I know now, she still has somebody else managing her social media accounts and uploading her content for her to protect her from ableism in comments, which just shouldn't be the way it has to be. People were incredibly cruel to Chloe because she saw a pod of whales and got excited and flapped her hands. And then the video happened to go out to a wider audience outside of the autistic community and attracted a load of silly comments and stitches and duets on TikTok. It's an upsetting pattern that we're seeing repeated again and again. I have had content of me stimming, clipped up, and reposted and seen the most horrible comments. It just makes your stomach drop and kind of that like blood running cold feeling. I don't know how to explain it in a way that's more literal, but like I just had to quickly like click off and just ignore it and try not to think about the fact that that exists. It's obviously really unpleasant, particularly as so many disabled people are bullied at school. Like we've been through this before. We've heard all of this stuff before. As Marissa says, in her case, she's just sitting down.
It's not that deep.
For whatever reason, TikTok comment sections are just such a magnet for tired, ableist jokes. Autistic is a popular insult, often used in place of the R word. When people didn't like JoJo Siwa's dancing, they implied that she had epilepsy. And this is why I take issue with comedians like Matt Rife. Matt Rife is not disabled himself, but he does a lot of crowd work and he really likes to focus in on disabled people. And he makes jokes that, to me, feel like low-hanging fruit. He makes the exact jokes that Marissa has found all over her comment section on TikTok. In this clip, Matt asks a disabled audience member for his name. The disabled person tries to say it, but it isn't clear, so then his cousin says, oh, his name's Logan. Then Matt kind of sarcastically, jokingly says, sounded like it, because, you know, he means it didn't sound like it wasn't clear what the guy had said his name was. And then when the audience laugh at this joke, Matt does this mock outrage thing he does, shouts at the audience to shut up. And then he says, I'm not going to stand for it. Neither will he.
Shut up. Everybody shut up already. I can already tell how y'all gonna feel about this, and I'm not gonna stand for it. Neither will he.
I have a video about Matt Rife's focus on disabled people. There are a lot of people in the comments telling me I'm too easily offended, I just need to get over it. It's a bad look for autistic people that I'm making it seem so sensitive or something like that. It's one of my kind of like most disliked videos that I've ever posted. Basically, some people had the exact response that Marissa Bodie is fearful she will have for posting this TikTok.
They're told to just take a joke and that they're asking for too much and to stop complaining.
But do young people maybe watch comedians like Matt Rife make these jokes and then feel emboldened to repeat them, like at school or in Marissa Bodie's comment section? I don't know. Either comedy like Matt Rife's, which gets millions of views on TikTok, is encouraging TikTok comment section ableism, or Matt Rife is getting his inspo for his inclusive, as he calls it, crowd work from TikTok trolls and school bullies, which, I mean, have some more creativity. Another thing that I've noticed is that some people, including fans of Wicked, seem to be a bit concerned with the casting of Marissa Bodie. And warning of a mild spoiler, maybe mild spoiler, relatively mild spoiler. I'm not entirely sure because I don't know the story all that well myself, but a spoiler from Act 2 of the musical On Stage, which is potentially also a spoiler then for Part 2 of the movie that will be coming out next year. But I really wanted to talk about this, so I'm including it in the video. In a response to an LA Times article about Marissa Bodie making history with her film debut, somebody commented, okay, cute, but when she gets the ability to walk, ... what then? Are you actually going to cure her? Which reads as very condescending to me, particularly with the cute. And it's like they're questioning Marissa Bodie's suitability for the role. So from what I understand, in Act 2 of the stage show, Nessa Rose is cured of her disability, which was another thing that was super disappointing for 11-year-old Marissa Bodie when she went to see Wicked.
And so I was really excited, and I had told my mom, I was like, do you think that actress is actually in a wheelchair? And then you get to the second act, and it's about her like being fixed and like wanting and pleading and wanting to be fixed, and then standing again.
This tired, all she wants is to be cured so she can finally be loved element of the story has been criticized quite a lot over the years. Some fans use Act 2 and the fact that the actor is required to walk to explain why for 21 years no wheelchair users have been cast in this role. But then others push back and say ambulatory wheelchair users exist. Ambulatory wheelchair users are individuals who don't need their wheelchairs all of the time. They may need a wheelchair for long distances or for when they're feeling fatigued or to prevent fainting or seizures. Autistic creator Zara Beth is also actually an ambulatory wheelchair user and makes a lot of content about accessibility. However, the response to that is sometimes then that the role on Broadway is still too physically demanding for a disabled person. While I know ambulatory wheelchair users exist, we need to remember that Nessa walks 8 shows a week and needs to walk at a specific time, not just when she's feeling able to. And then this person suggests that there have been wheelchair users in the cast in the past. I don't know if that's true. I've never seen any evidence of this. Everything always says that Marissa Brody is the first. I'm not an expert on all things Wicked. You'll have to let me know if you know anything about that. They also say it's not fair or healthy to expect someone to surpass their physical limitations. I don't know why we're talking about the physical limitations of an imaginary person, but there we go. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of the casting process for the musical on stage, whether they've always done their best to cast and accommodate a disabled Nessa Rose, and whether that, just hasn't worked out. I wonder if that will change now going forwards, now that we have had a disabled Nessa Rose in the movie. Who knows? But interestingly, Marissa Brody herself is actually not an ambulatory wheelchair user, as far as I understand it. I've seen a lot of people online claim that she is, but in this interview clip, she states that her partner is, doesn't say anything about herself being an ambulatory wheelchair user. It doesn't sound like she is. Not to speculate about someone else's disability, there's unfortunately a lot of that going on online. But it sounds like some changes may have been made to the plot in order to accommodate this.
There has been changes that I am happy with in terms of the whole fixing aspect.
Which could be really exciting. As I say, it's quite a tired old ableist trope. A disabled person's deepest wish is to be fixed and to be finally made whole and lovable and all of that rubbish. But I think the fact that changes might be made rings alarm bells for some people. I mean, people can obviously get very, very attached to the source material. However, although I have not read Gregory Maguire's Wicked yet, in my understanding, Nessa Rose's disability in the book is already quite different from the musical, so it's already been changed in one adaptation. Maybe it can change again. Maybe it can change for the better. See what I did there? And that initial change was potentially for casting reasons as well. So if they've done it once, maybe they're gonna do it again. It'll probably all be okay. Maybe we don't need to be so worried about Marissa's suitability for the role. Were we concerned when Cynthia Erivo was cast as Elphaba because, she can't fly? Elphaba needs to fly on a broomstick. As this person says, they can also make characters fly and appear in a bubble. Where there's a will, there's a way. Wise words. As I say, Marissa did her own stunts. CGI is a thing. Who knows what they'll do after that first movie. I trust them and I trust this casting. But obviously this is coming from somebody who is less invested in the source material. I understand that people do get wary of changes made in adaptations. I still have never watched the adaptation of my favorite book of all time, Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. I can't bring myself to do it. I've been hurt by adaptations in the past. I can't believe I still haven't watched it. It's been so many years. If Marissa has read any of this, it can't be pleasant to kind of hear people questioning the casting choice because of your disability when you're a disabled person who has been cast as a disabled character as well. The question of basically how on earth are they going to do Act 2 with, a real life wheelchair user is getting a bit old. Somebody shared a screenshot of how many times this has been asked on the Wicked subreddit recently. I don't know, it just feels like people maybe need to calm down a bit, and it can veer into invasive, disrespectful territory. A lot of people asking questions or just kind of sharing misinformation about Marissa Brody's disability. All will become clear in a year's time, I suppose. I can't wait to see the next movie, but until then, it's none of my business. I guess in the meantime, we can support Marissa Brody on social media. I'll of course leave all of her accounts linked in the description below. Spread a bit of positivity, leave some non-ableist comments. Always a good idea. I think all of this nonsense just shows how desperately we do actually need this representation and that we shouldn't give up. I'm not gonna stop posting clips of myself stimming just because some nasty person made a video about me. You know, my young child went to the cinema to see Wicked with me and loved it and had a lovely time. So many of the films that I get to go and see with him are so much more diverse than what I was exposed to when I was young, which is really lovely. Marissa speaks out about how so many kids do seem to know so little about disability, which is concerning.
And there is such a lack of education surrounding disability. I definitely learned that the job that I was at, I was working with middle schoolers. I love working with kids. I love the job itself, but it was really such an eye-opener to how little kids know about disability. Because obviously, like, kids are curious, so they're going to ask me all these questions. They're questions and like assumptions about disabled people. It was just a reminder of like, wow, you guys really don't know anything about disability. Again, no fault to theirs at their own, because they're kids and they're just not taught this. And I was like, this is scary, because how are disabled people ever going to be included or ever going to be treated as the human beings that they should be treated as if there's no education, or if people look at disability as this scary, bad, big deal of a thing? A roundabout way of me saying representation is so important.
There's so many areas that I'm probably super ignorant in still, and I certainly wouldn't even know as much as I do about disability and obviously autism and ADHD and dyspraxia specifically if I hadn't been diagnosed with all of those things. It's sad that like sometimes it has to personally affect you in order to care, because we're just not always exposed to these things. These same kids will be on TikTok in a few years if they aren't already. So I do think education is really important. People may not even realize that what they're saying could be hurtful. They might just think they're being funny, particularly as TikTok has such a young demographic. I don't know, keep your kids away from Matt Rife content if you can. Maybe that's the solution. Definitely would recommend the movie. I think they've done a great job with the representation. Obviously, that's not necessarily reason enough to see a movie. Good representation wouldn't really make up for it being a bad movie. Yeah, luckily the movie was great, so the representation is really easy to support, and I think we should support it. I've been feeling a little bit non-Christmassy this year. You can't really tell, can you? Like, I'm trying to force myself into the spirit, but because I had to move recently and I haven't been super happy with the place that I found. I feel like my backdrop's coming along, but like, the rest of the place is still in complete shambles, and it just isn't what I would have chosen if I wasn't under like intense time constraints to find somewhere to live. I've not been feeling my best self, but going to see Wicked was like kind of the closest I got to feeling like those warm and Christmassy feelings so far this year. So I'm very grateful for that movie. It was a moment of light in a time of darkness. A bit dramatic maybe. I'm trying to drag my mom to go, but she doesn't believe me about how good it is. I will drag her. I will drag her with me. I know she will cry. She will cry and she will enjoy it. But when you've seen the movie and you know the themes of the movie, it seems like all the more ironic that people are discriminating against cast members. Anyway, we move. TikTok will be TikTok. Obviously, you know, TikTok is not a representation of the whole world, and, you know, probably most people wouldn't make these jokes. It may just be very young people, and also, like, I don't know, people say silly things when they're behind a screen that they wouldn't say in real life. I don't know why. If you missed last week's video, I discussed how some parents are kind of oversharing their autistic children's Christmas on TikTok. Of course, it's TikTok again. I try to approach it in a nuanced way because obviously parents are humans too, but I am super glad that my parents never complained about my behavior online or kind of insinuated that I'd ruined their Christmas. If you would like these videos to keep coming, if you think, you know, these topics are important and I'm doing something worthwhile here, I really appreciate everybody who supports me over on Patreon. You obviously do not have to, but if you would like to, I would be very grateful. The lowest tier is $4, but even on that lowest tier, you get access to a load of exclusive content. There are exclusive videos every month. There are 18 videos already up there for you to watch, some of them over an hour long. There's a lot of stuff on there and a lot more still to come. And then on higher tiers, there's more stuff, and my partner and I do a podcast together. And also all tiers get access to the Discord server as well, so you can chat to other autistic and neurodivergent and just generally nice people. You don't have to be diagnosed to join. Anybody is welcome. It's a lovely, very accepting group. I really appreciate all of your support. Google AdSense is super unreliable. Without the Patreon, I don't think I would still be able to be doing this right now and be putting this much time into scripting and editing the videos. So I'm very grateful because I love doing this and I'm scared every day that it could go away. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye.